I'm presenting Seagate Technology. I'm presenting on creating the sustainable Datasphere. And we'd like to start by thanking the sustainability group for inviting us into this discussion. We think that storage is a really big slice of the pie, especially for data center sustainability. So let's start with what you already know. We're going through an incredible data explosion. This is a study we did with IDC. It projects up to 17 zettabytes of installed storage. It's storage sitting on hard drives, much of that in data centers by 2025. If that represented pictures of your cat, you could literally paper the earth in pictures of your cat. Don't get any ideas. And most of this installed data will be on hard drives. People ask me, well, what about SSDs? Is that coming? If you look at the more recent trends, we're still projecting hard drives to be a predominant source of storage for the foreseeable future. We look at the manufacturing distribution. We have a very robust LCA program. And as Ali Fenn has mentioned before, most CO2 productions for data centers and hard drives as well occur pre-use. Hard drives also contain rare earth magnets, and recycling those magnets is a key goal. And unfortunately today, most hard drives are, if they're recycled only for aluminum content. They're destroyed, and those rare earth magnets, which are the most critical part of the drive, are not recovered. So you see data is exploding, and in the past that's often been attributed to things like data, video streaming, that type of thing. But as we look forward, machine learning and AI are really driving a lot of this future data growth. And that means we're developing data that can be helpful to sustainability. So don't view it as a negative. It can be a positive. Autonomous vehicles is a great example, and also something that we really need for a sustainable future. If you can create a petabyte of data a day to make your factory 70% more efficient, that's also a great gain. And we have data. Smart cities is another great example. So looking at the phases of sustainable Datasphere, this is a chart you'll see from many companies as we look at our LCA programs. We look at design first and making sure that we're designing drives that have increased drive capacity, that are easier to recycle, in some cases to work with pilots and companies to disassemble the drives so we can recover those magnets. And they're power efficient and have great security. Security is important for other reasons for sustainability we'll go into later. To demonstrate this or to visualize it, this is a drive from 25 years ago, 1 gigabyte drive, best in class in 1996. This is today's Seagate 18 terabyte drive. It would take 18,000 of these drives, 1 inch high, stacked 5 football fields in the air, to match the data capacity of this one drive. So this is certainly much more sustainable than 18,000 of these. Maybe in 25 years from now, I'll be up here holding a vial of DNA, and that'll be the example. So innovation is really critical to driving sustainability. Manufacturing is important. The life of the drive, we're going to go more into that. Keeping drives in use as long as possible is key. And then we'll go into more about reuse and recycling and recovering those rare earth magnets. A great example of how we can keep a drive in service longer is to repair a drive. Now this drive here only has a single head on it. This drive here has 9 platters. This has 1 platter. This has 9 platters, 18 heads. Yet if one of those heads fails today, this drive is destroyed. That often happens during its useful lifetime. We have technology called autonomous drive regeneration that can take that head offline, regenerate the drive, and place it back in use at 94.4% of its capacity, on this example with 9 disks and 18 heads. And you have a drive that one head failure is not predictive of future failures. So you have a drive that's working on par with the other drives in your system, but you've kept it in service. You haven't had to take it out of service. Even more important when you start looking at things like liquid cooling, where you aren't able to remove the drives. You have to leave them in the system for the life of the data center rack. So the barriers to reuse and recycling, this big one is just frustrating for me because there's this perception data security risk. You have to shred the drive to make sure the data is gone. That's just not true. You know, if you talk to anybody who's a storage expert or a security expert, they'll tell you there are ways of doing that. We'll go into more detail later. But we are, even folks here at OCP, really intelligent people, technology experts, they're flat earthers when it comes to this because data security is so important. People lose their jobs, companies go under if the data escapes. And you know, you trust your drive when you write to it, but you don't trust it when you cryptographically erase. And it's really the same level of trust that you need to have. So we have to get past that, and that's the main point I want to make here, given the limited amount of time. This really requires a change in mindset and effort. I'd say the same thing goes to recycling. You know, not just shredding the drives and letting those rare earth magnets go to waste, but actually putting the investment in and not just looking at the recovery cost and benefit. It's pretty close. Maybe it's a little more expensive to recover those magnets than it is to buy new ones, but you have to factor in sustainability. So retain, reuse, recover. Retain the drive, you know, especially when liquid cooling comes, but you know, keep these drives in use as long as they have usable life in them. Reuse the drives, cryptographically erase the drive, resell it. Seagate ourselves, we have a systems group. We'll buy drives, we want to buy drives. These are valuable, very valuable resources. And then find ways to recover drives, either through disassembly, and there's some other methods out there. If you look on the right here, there's a study here being done by the Biden administration, where they're looking at doing studies on how to recover rare earth magnets from hard drives. That's how important it is to our government. Part of that is because we can actually supply 5% of our need for these through recycling alone. And finally, just to pound the point home, certified erase is, you know, today most drives are SED, secure encrypted drives. They come with a very high level of encryption that's quantum compute safe into the foreseeable future, AES 256XTS. That's protecting your data at rest. And then once you cryptographically erase the drive, that's covered by ISO, IEC right down the left-hand corner, IEC 27040. This is the 2015 version that's in effect today. There'll be a 2022 version. That's the international standard for data sanitization and to make sure that you can certify and deterministically erase that drive and prove it. So really encourage the industry to start moving in that direction. It's really vital for a sustainable data sphere. Thank you.